Hey, what's up everybody, how are you doing? In this video, we are going to be looking at building this basic landing page with light and dark mode feature using just HTML, CSS and JavaScript. The link to the code for this project will be provided in the description below just in case you want to have it. Now let's dive in. Alright, to get started, let's go ahead and create a new folder for the project. We'll call this light-dark theme. And I also have this images folder which contains all the images and the SVG files we'll be needing for this project. So I'll go ahead and move the images folder to our projects folder, and then let's open this up with VS Code. Okay, yes, I trust this. Alright, great. So we have our project folder created and we have the images we need there. Now, if you need any of these images we're using here, you can go to the GitHub repo. The link is in the description below. So, let's start by creating our HTML file. Okay, so we'll call this index.html. And let's generate the basic HTML boilerplate code. Alright. And for the title, let's quickly just change the title to light-theme. Let's just do light-dark theme. Save this. And let's start the layout now. If you look at this design now, you can see that we have every element centralized. So we would have to wrap everything here with a main tag or some other tag, and then you have the hello there with the emoji and then the welcome message. So I'm thinking this will be in a separate section of its own, and this right here will be in another section, that is the meet our theme and these cards we have here. Alright, so to lay that out, let's go ahead and have a main tag which will be wrapping around all our content. Okay, so inside the main tag we'll have our first section tag, which is the section tag for this content here. So our H1 and the welcome message. Alright, so we'll have the H1 here, and in the H1 we'll simply just say hello there. And let me go ahead and copy that emoji and put there. Alright, we also need a message underneath that. So make a P tag. Let me copy this message also. And let's go ahead and put it there. Let's format this properly now. Alright, good. We're done with this section. So the next section is this. We'll be using a H3 tag for this, and then for these elements here, these are cards, we would have a parent wrapping around them, so we can use display flex there before we actually make the cards themselves. So let's have another section tag. Inside the section tag we'll have an H3 that will say meet our theme, and then when we're done with that, let's also have a div element this time around. This will act as a container around this cards. So we'll give it an ID of container, and then inside of it we'll have the divs, which are the boxes this time around. So we'll give this a class of box. Right. Now, if you look at each of these cards or these boxes, we have the image tag, and then we have an image and a text. So for this image, of course, we'll be using the image tag, and for the text, we'll be using an H4 tag for that. Alright? So let's go ahead and use an image tag. Now, the images, we have it in our images folder, and for the very first image here, we'll be using pick 1. And so on and so forth. So pick 1, 2, 3. So for the source, we'll say images /pick1.png. And I think the H, we'll be using the H4 for the name. Okay, this name right here. So for that name, the h4 tag we'll be using, I think the first name is Sarah Walker. Go ahead and save that. Okay, if we preview this in the browser, so let's right click and open with live server. Alright, you can see what we have so far. So let's go ahead and just do for the remaining boxes. We need 2 more, so I'll make a copy of this, paste, copy, paste. We'll change this to pick 2, pick 3. The second person is John Doe, and I think the last person is Evan Hugh. If you don't know who Evan Hugh is the creator of Vue.js, my favorite front-end framework. Alright, and if you're a fan of Vue.js or you have interest in learning that, you want to go ahead and subscribe now, because I'll be making content around Vue.js soon. Alright, so we have that. I think that's all with our layout. That's all we need. Okay, for our HTML, if we go to our browser now, you can see the layouts and we're there. The only thing I can see we're missing is this button here. Okay, so let's go ahead and put that. Why I didn't put that part of the main layout is we'll be giving this a position of fist. Okay, so let's go ahead and also include the button. So I'll go to the very top, just before the main tag, or you can still have it inside the main tag. So we'll have a button. This button by default would have an image icon. Okay, now since according to the design, we'll be starting out in dark mode. That is, whenever a user visits the site for the first time, they will be in the dark mode, right? So what we want to do, the source of this, we'll be using the dark SVG for this. So the source by default will be images / no, not the dark, the light. Since they'll be in dark mode when they visit the site, okay, we want to use the light SVG. Images / light.svg. That's what we want. We don't want the auth attributes for this, so we'll go ahead and save that. I also want to give this button an ID, so it will be more easier to grab it when we need to do anything with it. So we'll give it an ID of btn. Okay, and then for this image, let's also give it an ID, because we'll be changing the image whenever the user switches to a different mode. So we'll call this btn image or btn img. If we go back to our browser now, we should have our button at the very top. Great. Now we're done with the HTML. Now let's go ahead and throw in some CSS to style this up. So we'll create a new file again. We'll call this main.css. Alright. Now for our CSS code, the very first thing we want to do, let's use the universal selector to take away all margin and padding. So we'll do margin 0, padding 0, and we want to also change the box sizing to border box. The fonts I used there, okay, the fonts we used there, if we look at it, is Nunito Sans. It's actually a Google font. Okay, so we'll change the font family to Nunito Sans. Alright, you can grab the font at Google, but I'll just go ahead and at Google Fonts. So you just visit googlefonts.com or just search for Google Fonts on Google. You should get a link to it, but I'll just paste the link I got there. So that's the link to the fonts. And yeah, fonts family Nunito Sans. Once we are done with that, if we save this and check our browser, okay, the font should have changed. Okay, yeah, that's the font. No, nothing is changing. In fact, our CSS code is not being applied, and that's because we've not linked to the CSS file yet. So what we want to do, make a link to the CSS file. We'll say our CSS file is the main.css. Great, that should link properly now. Is that correct? Are we still, did our fonts change? You know what, let's go ahead and give a background color overall. Okay, so we'll say body. Now, like I said, by default, once the page loads, we want to start out with the dark mode. Okay, so we'll say body background color, or just do background. Let's go ahead and copy that color. This is the color there. We want to paste that color there. Save this and let's see if it changes anything. Great. So we have our CSS working now. Alright. So the next thing we want to do for the body, if the background color is this dark color, we want the text color to be white, as we can see here. So we would say color should be white. So we'll use the hexa value for white. Great. Go ahead and save that. With that saved now, we want to go ahead and start styling our elements. So we want to start with the main tag itself first. Okay, this main tag. We want to centralize every element. Okay, so we'll call the main tag. I would say give it a width of 70% since we want it to be at the center. We'll do a margin to centralize it now. We'll do a margin of 0 ps auto. So 0 ps, which means margin top and bottom should be 0 ps, left and right should be auto, and that will go ahead and position it at the center. You can see the space now. Great. That is for that. We also give it a padding, because if you look at what we currently have, everything is flush to the top. We want it to move a bit down, so we'll give it a padding. We'll do a padding of 100 px top and bottom, 0 ps left and right. Save that. That should do the job. Great. Alright, that's that for the main section. The next thing we want to do is, let's pick out this welcome section, okay, where we have our hello there and the paragraph tag. Alright, so we'll say section. We'll give it a display of, do we actually need that for a section? Let's look at our section again. Okay, so we just need the items below each other, and they should have the elements below each other, and they should have a display of they should also be centralized within their parent. Okay, so we'll also use a display of flex here. Okay, justify content of center, and we'll give it an align item of let's also go with center. If we save this, you see that all our contents are arranged in row, and that's because by default when you use flex, okay, when you make an element, we give it an element a display of flex, it's using a flex direction of row. We want to change that now. By default it is row. We want to change that to column, so all items are arranged underneath each other. Great, this is what we want. Now if you look at these two sections we have, both of them are just too close to each other, so we want to create spacing between them. To do that, let's give these sections a margin bottom of let's do 50 px. Save that. Great, that's the space we want. Once we are done with that, let's also style this h1 here. We want to make it bolder, and the paragraph tag, we want to make it centralized, okay, so the text would break up. We want to reduce the width, okay, so the text can break up just like this here. Alright, so come back to our code. We'll call our h1 tag first. Let's change the font of that, the h1 tag. So let's give it a font size of let's go with 2.5 en. Let's save this and see if it makes any difference. Great, that's a lot bigger. Let's call the paragraph tag. Okay, now I'm actually just calling the h1 tag and the paragraph tag directly, because I know that those are we just have one paragraph tag and just one HTML tag. Okay, if we had multiple, or we have a lot of them, we would have given them an ID or a class at least to differentiate them. But since we just have one paragraph tag and one p tag, it's okay to call them this way. So we'll do a test align for the paragraph tag of center. We also want to reduce the width, so we'll give it a width of 50%, so that will cause the text inside of it to break. Alright, great, that is what we have. Now if you look at the paragraph tag and our h1 tag, you can see that they are both too close to each other, so we want to create space in between them. We can actually do that on the h1 tag. Okay, so we'll make the h1, give it a margin bottom of, let's do a 30 ps. Save that. Great, that's the space we want. Now that we're done with that, we want to move next to the other section, which has our means our theme and then our container. Alright, so we'll select that container element. Okay, I want to give this a display of flex and also a justify content of center. Alright, that should centralize every item in it, and an align content, align items, of center, and the margin top. So let's do a margin top of 30 px. Save this, and this is what we have. Okay, all items are displayed flex now. And with that out of the way, we want to style the boxes. Okay, these individual boxes, if you can see, we have 3 of them. So we want to style them, give them their background color and every other thing. So we'll come to here, and if you look at our boxes, we gave each of them a class of box. Alright, so we'll call the class of box. Alright, and we'll give it each of them a width, since there are just 3 of them. Okay, if their parent has a width of 100%, each of them will give them like 32%, so there is still space for, you will still have space between them. Alright, so we'll do a width of 32%, and let's give it a background. So we'll use background. We'll actually be using RGBA for this because we want the background to be transparent. Okay, so the value we can use is this. Alright, so we have RGBA 255, 255, 255, 0.02, and that will give us that transparent background, as you can see. Alright, let's also add padding to this so we can actually see the background properly. So we'll do a padding, an all-round padding of 30 px. Okay, and that should give us, great, that is what we have. And let's also give a border radius. Okay, as you can see, we have a border radius. Okay, we'll do a border radius of 10 ps to be okay. Save that. That will do that. Alright, great. Now we want to go ahead now and style the elements inside of that. So we'll give this a display of flex, justify content, virtually the same thing we did up here. So I'll go ahead and just copy these 2 lines and paste them here. Alright, and we also need a flex direction of colon. Save this. Let's check the browser. Great, this is what we have. Okay, but we kind of need space in between these elements here. Okay, there is no space here, so we have to, for the container, okay, we should, instead of center, we should do a space between. Yeah, a space between. Great, that will give us that space that we do need. That will give us the space that we need. And I think that is what we need there. Okay, this H1, okay, is too flushed against the image. Okay, sorry, these are name tags. It's too flushed against the image. You can see what we have here. Alright, if we go grab that tag, that should be our H4 tag. Alright, so we want to say H4, we want to give you a margin top. Let's do a 30 ps there. That should create the space at the top. Great, perfect, this is what we want. Alright, that is exactly what we want. Now that we're done with this, we can focus on this button now. Okay, as you can see, this button, we want it at the left hand, the right hand side here, and it's actually creating an extra space that we don't want here. So we'll pick the button. If you remember, we gave this button an ID. Where is that? Okay, we'll give it an ID of BTN. So to grab an element by its ID, we just use the hash and then the name of the ID. So for our button, we want to take away the background color, so we'll set the background to none. We don't need an outline. Okay, outline, none. We don't need a border also, so we'll do border, none. And we want to change the cursor to pointer. Let's see what that has done. Great, you see what we have now. All right. Next, we want to change the position. Okay, we want it at this right hand side, so we'll give it a position of fist. Okay, and then from the top, we want it to be around 30 ps, and then from the right, because we want it at the right hand side like we said, we'll do right of also 30 ps. Save this, and boom, this is what we have here. So we have it at the right hand side. Okay, this fonts, everything seems good. Everything seems good, and this is okay. Right now, it's time to focus on actually toggling this, okay, from dark to light mode or back to dark mode. Okay, so the trick to this is, by default, whenever this site loads, okay, we want the default theme to be dark. So we've gone ahead and implemented all the colors, okay, to be dark. So you can say our background color for our body is dark. The color for these our cards is also dark, right? So the theme by default we want it to be dark. All right. Now what we want to do now is, whenever a user, okay, clicks on this button, we want to change the theme now to light, which means the background color will be white and all of our text color will be dark. All right. Now to see that in action, let's come to the body, to our HTML code, and in this body section, let's give a class here. Let's have a class of light. Okay, let's say we have a class of light. And if we come back to CSS, at the bottom, we want to call the body, but this time with a light color. So we're saying whenever you have the light color, all right, we want to change the background color this time around. So we'll say background should now be white. You know, before it was dark. Okay, we had this dark color there initially, but whenever it has that light theme, the class of light, now we want to change the background color to this color, to this white, and then the text color, we'll change it to this dark color. So for the color, we want it to be this color. Now if I save this and come to the browser, you see what we have immediately. Okay, our background is white and the text color is, of course, the dark color. Now the trick to how this works is this. By default, let's go ahead and comment this out first to quickly understand this. Now by default in CSS, when you have a CSS style, okay, at the top of your code, okay, you have a property, you've changed a property, and then you come to the bottom and change it again. By default, the code at the bottom would override that at the top. Let's see an example of this. Let's grab this H1, okay. Let's say we want to change the color of this H1, and we change the color, okay, to red. If I save this, of course, you see the color is red. But watch what happens when I come underneath this and do H1 again. This time we change the color to green. Save this. See that the color becomes green. It's not as if this color is not being applied, but because this color is underneath it, okay, it's applied last. It's just like you have a board, okay, and you painted the board white. Okay, so you've initially painted it white and then you go ahead again and paint it green. Of course, it's the color that you painted it last that the board will automatically becomes. That is what is actually happening here. And that's the same thing we want to do. By default, when the page loads, we want the dark thing to be applied. So we'll have the dark color on our body for the background, and we have the white color for the text. But whenever this class of light is on the background or on the body element, we want to apply a different color, which is this color here. So let's get rid of this and let's comment this back. Let's have this back. And so that is what we have. Now the other colors we need to change that we are not changing is the background of these boxes. As you can see, if we come back to our design, okay, you'll see the background color. Also on the white mode, it should change. Okay, this is the white mode. You see what it should change to on the white mode. All right, so what we want to do is where are we setting that background? Okay, on the box. Okay, the background of the box is what we want to change. So I'll make a copy of this. We'll say body dot light, and then we want to grab the box element. Okay, and then we'll change the background this time. Instead of this color again, okay, the new color, still RGBA, would be this. All right, and if we come back to our code now, you can see that background color there. All right, you can see the background color there. Now the next thing that is left, okay, for this to actually start changing is we want this color, okay, this the theme, okay, to change based whenever the user clicks on this button. So if it was in light mode and the user clicks on this button, you want to turn it back to the dark theme. And if it was in the dark theme, we want to turn it back to the light theme. Now, the trick to doing that is just to keep on, if we take away this light color now, you see that everything becomes dark. You see that? And if we put it back, everything becomes light. And that is perfect because we actually have a JavaScript class that can help us take away a class from an element and put it back. Okay, so that is where JavaScript comes in now. So let's create a new JavaScript file. So we'll say new file, main.js. All right, now inside of this file, the first thing we want to do, okay, in this our JavaScript file is grab our body elements. Okay, so we'll say const body equal to document.get element by ID. And the ID we want to grab in this case is by ID. Did we give our body element an ID? No ID. And I don't really want to give it. Of course, you can give it an ID and grab it by ID. But instead of grabbing by ID, let's grab by tag name. Okay. Now, when you grab an element by its tag name, of course, it will return you an array of elements. Okay, a node list. So what we want to do instead of So we'll grab it by the body. I want to get the first element out of that list. So we'll put in the index position of 0, and that should get us the body. Now, what we want to do is, let's have a function. Okay, so let's create a function called change theme. This function will be responsible for changing the theme. Okay, so by default, okay, whenever a user clicks on that button, we want to, the main trick, what we want to do is, we want to grab the body element and we want to add, so we'll do body.classList, okay, to grab the list of class on that element, we want to add a new class of light there. We want to add a new class of light there. Now, the moment we do that, what is left now is we need a way to call this function. Okay, we need a way to call this function, and of course we have a button, our btn. So what we want to do is we want to also grab that button too. So we'll also grab the button with const btn equals to document dot get element by id. We gave it an ID of btn, right? Now, whenever a user clicks on this element, we want to call this function. So what we will do is we'll do btn.add event listener. We want to add an event to that button. So we want to add the click event. And what function do we want to, the callback function, the function we want to call whenever this event is fired, this function right here. Great, let's go ahead and save this. Come back to the browser now. Let's go ahead and click on this and see what happens. Well, nothing happens. And that is because we've not linked our JavaScript to our HTML file yet. Okay, so just before the closing body tag, let's have a script tag. and then the source of this script tag would be main.js. Great. Save this and let's see that in action again. Still not working. What is wrong? What is wrong? Let's check our console if we're getting any error. So inspect, check the console, let's refresh, click on that button, no errors. Okay, so what exactly is wrong? Let's see if this it's actually connecting. So let's do a console.log. Let's log just hey. Oops. I want to put that in a bracket. Great. Okay, so it's being called. So what exactly is wrong? We're doing body.classList.add light. Okay, body.classList.add light. Do we have the light? Oh, we have it by default when it loads. So let's get rid of it. Okay, so let's get rid of that class when the page loads for the first time. All right. So if we come back to our page now, okay, let's refresh again. Good. Let's click on this button. You see, it works. So if we refresh the page, we start from the dark thing. If we click on this, it changes to the light thing. Now, if we click on this again, of course, it's not working. And that's because all we are doing is just adding the class. Don't forget, what we want to do is, we want to be able to toggle that class. So when the user clicks, if the class was there before, it should be taken away. When the user clicks again, if the class was not there before, it should be added. So instead of just calling add, there's a class we can use called toggle. Sorry, a function we can use called toggle. And if we use this toggle method now, and we come back now, watch what happens. See, it's toggling between the themes. Now, to show you how that works, if we come to back to our element, let's zoom in. I want you to watch out on the body element, okay? You notice currently there's a class of light. Watch what happens when we click on that button. You see that that class is gone. If we go ahead and click on it again, the class is back, and that's exactly how this works. All right, and that is that for that. Now the only thing left is, you notice even while in light mode, we are still using the light icon. Okay, so we want to be able to change that back. Okay, so instead of, all right, so when we are done adding or taking away this class, we want to have an if statement here. So we want to say if body.classList.contains, what this will do is, it will tell us if the class list has this particular class, and what class do we want to check out for the light class. So if it contains light, which means we are currently in the light mode. So what we want to do when we're in the light mode is, we want to grab this image element here, okay, this image here. I want to change the source. Now, whenever we are in light mode, we need a dark image, and whenever we are in dark mode, we need a light image. So if the body.classList.contains light, we want to grab that element. So let's do document. Let's go ahead and grab it at the top here. So we'll say const image is equals to document dot get element by id, and in this case the id is img. I think it is btn img. Let's confirm that. Great, so we have btn img. All right, and then what we want to do now is we want to get this image. So we'll do img dot source. We want to change the source. All right, img dot source is equal to, let's go ahead and copy this. Is equal to this. Oops, it should be in the string. All right, great. So whenever we have the light class on our body element, we want the dark icon, right? And if we don't have it, so let's have an else section. If we don't have it, I want to change this now to light. Save this. Let's go to the browser and see if this works. Okay, refresh. we click on this, you see that the image is changing successfully now. You can see that there. Now, there are just two things we want to quickly do last, okay? The first thing is, I currently don't like the way the mode just changes like straight out of the box, like it's too sudden. We want to make this changing of theme, okay? We want to make it a bit smoother, okay? So it doesn't just suddenly change. And we can do that by just adding the transition property to our CSS, okay? This body on our body tag, okay? On our body tag, we want to change the transition. So we'll say transition for background and color. Okay, we want to change the transition to 500 milliseconds. Let's do an ease in out. Save that. If you come back to the browser now, you should notice that smooth transition. You can notice the smooth transition now. It's not just too sudden anymore. Alright, and that is for that. Okay, now the only problem left with this is if the user changes the mode now to light mode and the user refreshes the page, you see it goes back to the dark mode, and we want to prevent this. Okay, and what we can do is whenever the user is in light mode or whenever the user toggles to light mode, we want to save the current mode or theme to the local storage so that whenever the user refreshes, okay, we'll grab that theme from the local storage and set it for the user. Alright, so to do this in our JavaScript, we actually have to write another function. Okay, we need to restructure this code if we are going to be using local storage. So what we need to do is we'll need another function, okay, that we'll name. So let's say function set theme. Okay, we'll call this function set theme. Okay, the job of this function is to set the theme. And like I said, what this function wants to do is go to the local storage and check if there is a theme set there first. So we would just, in this, what we want to do here is let's grab the theme from the local storage. We'll say let theme, or you can change that to mode, let theme equals to local storage dot get item. So we use get item to get an item from the local storage. We want to get the item with the name theme, okay? And what we want to do now is we want to check if the theme, so we'll say if theme is equal to light. Okay, if the theme is equal to light, we want to change. Okay, if the theme is equal to light, we want to grab our body, okay, the body element. We want to grab the body element and add a class to it. So we'll do body.add class. No, not add. Body.classList.add. The class we want to add to it is light. Alright? And if it is not, okay, if it is not equals to light, which means we are in dark mode, we probably don't want to do anything there if it is not equals to light. Okay? But what we also want to do whenever this is equal to light, okay, once we've added this to this, don't forget we're always changing the image. We don't want to do this image source. We don't want to change it on this change theme function anymore, because what we want to do here is whenever the user adds the class of light to it, that is whenever the user clicks on the button and we want it to have the class of light, instead of changing the image here, what we want to do is we want to set the local storage. Okay, so we'll do a local storage dot set item. And which item do we want to set? We'll give it a name of theme and the value will be light. Alright, the value will be light. And if it doesn't contain, okay, we want to do the same thing in the else, but instead of setting, we'll be removing item. Okay, so we'll be removing the item of theme. We don't have to pass a value here now. Alright, and get rid of this too. So we'll move all of those codes down here. So whenever we have a light we have the light theme in the local storage. We want to change this to dark. And then if we don't, we want to change it to light. Let's see if this works first. I will still go ahead and explain that for those of you who still don't get that. So we'll come back here, see the mode switches, but the icon is not changing. But let's see if it remembers the mode now. If we refresh, it's still not remembering. What is wrong? Oh yeah, we need to call this function. We're not calling the function anywhere, our setTheme function. Let's call it here. And also let's call it when the page loads for the first time. Alright, let's see this. Refresh. We are in light theme mode. Let's go to dark theme mode. Great. Enter. We are still in dark theme. Let's come back to light theme and refresh this page now. See, we are still in light theme. So how this works is this. We have two functions, okay? The change theme function and the set theme function. Now, the set theme function, as you can see, is called automatically whenever the page refreshes or whenever the page loads. And what this function is doing is just checking our local storage if we have a theme set. Now, it will try to compare the theme if the theme is equal to light. If we come to our local storage, let's right click, inspect, not view page source, right click, inspect. If you come to let's zoom out. So we come to the application tab, another application, come to local storage, and then click on this. You can see that currently we have a value of light here. Okay, you can, if I drop this down, let's draw this down. You see we have a key of theme and the value is light. So your local storage items are always arranged in key value pair. So you have the value, you have the key and you have the value. And what we are just saying here is we want to get that item theme, and then if the value of the theme is equal to light, we'll add this class of light to our body, and then we'll set the image source to the dark theme, to the dark icon. And if it is not equal to light, we'll go ahead and set that image, our button image, to the light icon. And then we have this other function now, change theme. This is the function that is called whenever the user clicks on that button. As you can see it here, event listener click. So this is the function that is called. And what is this function doing? It is just toggling the light theme on the body element. So if the light theme wasn't there before, it puts it. If it was there before, it takes it away. And then we are checking if the class list of the body elements contains light. If it does, we are setting a local storage item. We're giving it the key of theme and the value of light. If it is not in light mode, then we want to remove that element and that item totally from our local storage. And then when we are done with all of this, we are calling the set theme, so you can run this code down here. And that is how we are getting this now. You can see, even while we're in light mode, if we refresh the page, okay, we still remain in light mode. And if we click this to go to dark mode, if we refresh the page, we're still in dark mode. And there you have it. That is how you implement basic light and dark mode in a web application. Now, if you like this video or you find it informative, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing that, as that would help me create more content. Thank you.